Yo, what's good? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room yet again. Always with another one, and yes, it is another one. So listen, look, we are out here. This is the deal here, man. It's a very sad one. We had a young man here recently in these past few weeks and things like that. He's a US airman, works for the Air Force. You would think that he's of course a decent young man. He knows the laws, he knows things that he needs to know about protecting himself, about protecting his country, stuff like that. So yeah, he got deleted recently, and things like that. And you know what, from listening to a few other content creators and things like that, and I'm putting two and two together. Sometimes things may make sense. Now, the last election year we had a situation go down, with the George Floyd thing. Now, hey, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist and things like that, but I mean, it just amazes me that every time an election year pops up, it seems to be something overwhelmingly tragic that goes on. And we're going here now. We're going here now with this young man, and I really hate this because he's definitely a part of what we need, in our country. Young black man that stands up for his country, that's willing to die for his country, but it just didn't work out the way that it was supposed to. So let's go here now, and we're going to check this out. Let's put these quarters, nickels, and dimes in on the times.
Marks 1 week since an Air Force service member from the Atlanta area was shot and killed in the doorway of his apartment by a Florida sheriff's deputy. The shooting is now under investigation, but the family of 23-year-old Roger Fortson is demanding answers and transparency. That comes as we're learning plans for his funeral. Fox 5's Tyler Fingert is live in Stonecrest with more details. This is getting national headlines, Tyler.
Yeah, Christine, good afternoon to you. It is. We have learned the funeral for 23-year-old senior airman Roger Fortson is set for next Friday here at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest. Those details come as the family demands answers about his death.
Sheriff's office, open the door.
The body camera of a Northwest Florida sheriff's deputy was rolling May 3rd during a disturbance call at an apartment complex.
Sheriff's office, open the door.
But that call turned deadly in a split second for senior airman Roger Fortson from Atlanta. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputy opened fire on him just moments after he opened his apartment door while holding a gun pointing down.
Drop the gun!
Fortson's mom is emotional.
My baby was shot up.
He was shot 6 times.
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump represents Fortson's family. He says Fortson was FaceTiming his girlfriend when he heard a knock at the door, but nothing else. You can hear the aftermath of the shooting in this clip from Fortson's phone. The Okaloosa County Sheriff says an investigation is underway.
I want to assure you that we are not hiding, covering up, or taking action that would result in a rush to judgment.
While investigators work, the family is now preparing for his funeral at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest. The family's pastor says what happened to him is shocking.
To be slaughtered at his own front door is just dizzying, to say the least.
Senior Pastor Jamal Bryant will deliver Fortson's eulogy on May 17th.
Well, we will focus our energy and efforts that service is not a courtroom to replay his final moments, but really a moment of jubilation.
Now, Jesus Christ, man, out here. Listen. This is a whole media frenzy. We got Ben Crump in on the situation. Then we got Jamal Bryant. Like, listen, look, man, Lord have mercy. This is a lot. Yeah. Ben Crump that showed up. Jamal Bryant is doing the service. And yeah, we didn't. we definitely understand what both of them been into. Like, Ben Crump only shows up at certain times, and Jamal Bryant, like, hey, But that's neither here nor there. This is a sad situation for this young man and things like that. And I really hate this for him and stuff because it was unnecessary. And it was, obviously this is a misunderstanding, and we have a lot of police officers nowadays in this new age, they're very squirrely, they're, bad activity, and they're jumping, and I suggest you black men out there, especially, I'm just being honest, that you take proper precautions and try to use the most level head of understanding that you can. Like, I get it though, because he was at his own door, opening his door. He didn't know what was going on, things like that. He's a veteran, Army trained individual and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was at a place that he knew that wasn't nobody supposed to be coming to his door. That's what was going on. When nobody's supposed to be knocking on his door. Nobody. He wasn't expecting company, none of that shit. He was already on the phone with his girlfriend, allegedly. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, nobody's supposed to be showing up at his house. I mean, I'm thinking that at the end of the day, nobody knew that he was there. So, yeah, he showed up to the door, ready to go. Like, who is this knocking at my door? Because nobody knows I'm here. So, yeah, a total misunderstanding. And I'm wondering is how these police officers are getting the wrong information about said things. Like what really went on? What crossed over to where they got the wrong apartment and things like that, about this disturbance that allegedly went on, because we haven't gathered the information about the disturbance. What was the specific disturbance that got the police involved? Nobody's talking about that. So, you know what I'm saying? Listen, look, let's dive off into this next part, and quarters, nickels, and dimes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to turn our attention to likely the top story of the day about a US Airman that was shot and killed by police late last week. Of course, Roger Fortson, a 23-year-old. Of course, we're also learning more information about the body cam footage that was recently released by Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. I do want to play this video out for you here on Live Now from Fox as we get more understanding into what happened, more reaction from people. But of course, viewer discretion is advised for this. Let's listen in and watch this body cam footage.
Like right after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from. Okay. And I couldn't call, I didn't want to call the police. And,
Which room is it?
1401.
1401, okay.
1401. But the girl sounded scared, the one that called. She said, it sounds like it's getting really out of hand.
So it's hit number 4, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. You be fair, we stand out there and direct the other deputy that's coming to this area?
It's not, you're going to.
So whoever this woman is right here is directing the officer to this specific place. She's giving a actual apartment number 1401. So, and she's like, whoever the girl called. So it was a girl that called and was like, something was going on, things like that. It's not specific about what actually was going on. She's saying they're getting loud, things like that. I mean, this makes no sense. It's a bunch of fucking babble. It's no specifics about what actually is going on. What are we talking about here? About what's actually going on. It's nothing tangible that's being given about the situation or what's going on. It's just 1401, loud noise, this and that, go check this shit out. That's what I'm getting from it. That's what I'm getting from it.
Go to the fourth floor. All right, it's gonna be on this side.
Gotcha. Three, 12, 111. Three, 12 to 111.
Okay, what are we waiting? Okay. First off, I'm looking a little weird about this situation because it's just one officer that shows up to this scene. So, okay, let's keep going.
Sheriff's office, open the door. Sheriff's office, open the door. Step out.
Why don't you own commercial real estate? Yeah.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, of course they had put a commercial in the joint. You know what I'm saying? But no, though, this is crazy.
Drop the gun. Drop the gun. It's over there. Drop the gun.
All right, that was some very disturbing images there of this body cam footage that was released. And I did want to show you that in full context, just how quickly it all went down last Friday afternoon. Of course, they were talking about a deputy responding to a call of a disturbance in progress, quote, reacted in self-defense after he encountered a 23-year-old man armed with a gun. I also want to put up this statement here on Live Now from Fox from the Okaloosa County Sheriff, talking about all of us at the Sheriff's Office saddened about the fatal officer-involved shooting over the weekend. Late Friday afternoon, our deputy responded to a call of a disturbance in progress where he encountered an armed man. The deputy shot the man, who later succumbed to his injuries. I immediately placed the deputy on administrative leave and have asked the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to conduct the investigation that is required in such incidents. The state attorney's office will also conduct an independent review. At this time, we humbly ask for our community's patience as we work to determine the facts that resulted in this tragic event. I do want to bring into the conversation right now.
Okay, what I need to ask right now. What need to be asked is, who is the young lady that or the lady, whatever, that guided this officer to this specific room? Because if there was a disturbance and things like that, okay, this is a huge complex. Seems like, if you paid attention to, he had to get into an elevator, go up an elevator, you know what I'm saying, things like that. Go to that specific area. What was disturbing about that area? How did, what was going on? Because at the end of the day, what it breaks down to is, technically he was in an apartment alone. There was nobody there. He was on the phone, allegedly he was on the phone with his girlfriend, things like that. What actually happened? Who got loud? Who got loud enough to make a disturbance within the complex? That's the question. Who was actually loud out there?
So what the French toast is there to think about?
It's a lot to think about because we're missing a lot of this situation here. You know, who is actually disturbing the peace in order for this officer to get called to the property to, say that. I mean, to engage with this activity. Like, who is this young lady here? I really want to know this. Who actually is the young lady that said that there was a disturbance in this specific apartment? Who is she? Because she got blurred out. So who is she? That's a definite need to know.
Right now, here on Live Now from Fox, civil rights attorney Benjamin Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And of course, potentially the first time you're seeing that body cam video, like so many of us are. What's our initial reaction? What's our initial thoughts when you look at that video?
I mean, when you watch the video, you see a young man, a US Airman, inside his house. You see the sheriff's deputy knock on the door. So it makes you wonder what caused the sheriff deputy to shoot so quickly. You do see the young man allegedly have a gun in his hand, but the gun is pointing down. So more facts will come out, but the body camera for this case is the main thing here. The knock on the door was very quickly. The shots were very quickly. So whenever you're inside your house, your home is your castle. Everybody understands that, and people should be protected and feel safe inside their home. And this U.S. Airman would probably assume would not even know who this person is outside unless they announce that they're law enforcement. So,
I mean, announcement or not, the sheriff did announce that, but it's no telling what the young man was doing. He could have had earpods on or anything like that, with and talking to because we all wear them, and that distorts sound, a lot of sound. So it's no telling about things like that. But I am adamant about this. Who was that young lady that said that at the end of the day, this specific apartment was giving the disturbance? Who is she? Who is she? We need to figure that out. That is a part of the plot right here. That's a part of the plot. Who is she? Because she said this specific apartment was giving this, all this ruckus and things like that. She pointed that officer to this one apartment that was, up these flights of stairs, or they had to use the elevator to get up there. The officer did. So it's like, okay, how do you know that this apartment specifically is doing this?
the facts here are going to come down to whether or not the law enforcement agent had the ability and the right to be able to hold the gun out and shoot him, and whether the US Airman inside his house had the right to have a gun inside his house to protect himself too.
Yeah, and of course, his family has come out and said he illegally owned that gun. And of course, 23-year-old U.S. Airman serving there in the Air Force as well. And we were talking about some of the statements coming out from Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney as well, talking about potentially the wrong apartment, even though the leasing agent did say 1401. And you can see in that body cam footage that they are at apartment 1401. I do have to ask you, because it's a singular officer, it's one person there going up to this disturbance. We don't really hear a ton of commotion, not really a disturbance at
right now. Think about this. Think about this. If there was such a disturbance, if things were so loud and belligerent, if things were so out the way, that situation would have been still going on when that officer showed up to that scene. Now, the thing of it also is too, why is this one singular officer showing up alone when we know that police travel in packs? Let's go here now. Okay, you may not want to accept it, but it's the truth though. When we have situations like this, now of course this situation wasn't made out to be a DV situation or anything like that, but the thing of it is, when police show up, they do show up at least 2 deep. when they show up to any situation. They definitely have backup. So this one lone officer to show up to this scene right here and gets directed immediately by this the lady that's supposed to be, you know, the overseer of these apartments and things like that, point him out directly to this specific apartment and says that this one apartment is the one that's creating all this ruckus and noise and things like that. But at the end of the day, though, this apartment is so high up because you had to take an elevator to go up to this one apartment out of all these other apartments and things like that, you know. And she pinpointed out this one apartment that had so much noise coming from it, okay? 1401 out here now. How did she know out of all these other apartments that was there that this one apartment was giving this noise when the officer clearly walked up to it? It was no noise going on. So let's keep going.
At all. Potentially, why did the officer not wait for backup? Is that a component of this?
Right.
Yes. I mean, the whole case will be look at the totality of the circumstances, meaning like, was anybody else in the apartment? If there was an alleged fight inside the apartment, but there's nobody else inside the apartment when the officer arrives, what's the sense of urgency to not wait for backup and to, you know, pretty much knock on the door and pull the trigger and shoot? So all the facts have to.
He's going to the fact of that when the officer walked up, it was clearly no noise going on. There was no argument going on, none of that. When that officer walked up there, y'all saw that. When the officer walked up, there was no loud noise going on. I'm still adamant about this. Who is the overseer of these apartments right here? What's that young lady's name? We need to understand what the fuck she really heard and where the noise was coming from. Real talk.
I'm out, of course, but the fact that if nobody else is in the apartment and this young airman lives there and rightfully lives there, is there a sense of urgency not to wait for other backups to come to make sure that everybody's safe before you go into somebody's house? Because anybody would know that if somebody knocks on your door, you're gonna be a little bit suspicious, right? And you don't know who is outside, so you might grab your weapon just to protect yourself. Like I said earlier, you know what I'm saying? The headline clearly says, you know, in the other video I showed that, you know, I'm thinking actually the young man is from Atlanta, but you know, he's moved to Florida and he's there in Florida, basically. So yeah, if there's no noise actually coming from, and clearly what the overseer of these apartment complexes was saying that there was noise coming from this specific apartment. It's like, out of all these other apartments, how do you know that noise was coming from that actual apartment? You know, was she walking around and going up and down the elevator, checking on every floor to see where the noise was coming from? Was she investigating herself before she called the police to try to figure out what exact apartment that the noise was coming from? Like, we need more details about this shit, because this is crazy right here. You know, it's election year. We trying to figure some shit out here. So, yeah, if the US Airman had every right to grab his weapon, that's fine. But did the officer have a right to actually shoot the US Airman inside his apartment? And that's what the case is going to come down to.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about this because he knocked on the door the first time, didn't really announce himself, may not have felt like he needed to. The second and third time, he did say sheriff's office as well. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that is a component as well? That could be a factor.
Yeah, it's going to be a factor whether or not the airman knew that this was a sheriff's officer. Unfortunately, the airman is dead, so he can't testify anymore. But if there's any other witnesses that heard him say that or heard it on the body camera to say, I am law enforcement, let me in. Even though they're law enforcement, they're outside the door, did this law enforcement have a warrant to enter? did they have the right to go inside the house? It looks like he might have shot him outside the apartment, not going inside, but still, when your home is your castle and you have every...
I mean, of course, that officer didn't have a warrant. It was a call that got made for the officer to do basically, I guess, a noise check, because from what the young lady, the overseer of the apartments, was saying, like, it was, seeming like a argument or some type of DV that was going on, because she mentioned that it sounded like a woman was in the apartment. Pay attention to this shit now, like, seriously, real talk. So it's like, okay, you're going to this, you're directing the officer to this one apartment out of thousands, and you're saying that this one apartment is creating this noise. So, man, it's all messed up. We need to actually, who is that lady that guided that officer to that specific apartment? We need that.
The right to be safe inside your house. So it's a higher level when law enforcement comes inside your house and shoots you versus outside on the streets.
Right.
And I do want to ask you about another kind of fact of this case. Of course, the 23-year-old a US Airman there serving as well. I want to put up just his image as well, as the Air Force's first Special Operations Wing said his priorities are providing casualty affairs to the family, supporting the squadron during this very tragic time. Will the U.S. government, will the Air Force, they be involved in this investigation at all, since it's involving one of their personnel?
Yes, anytime something happens to a United States official, whether or not it's an airman, a post office official, any federal government official, the United States Air Force, United States government, Department of Justice can always come in and do their own investigation to make sure that everything is done fairly and accurately and correctly. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Department of Justice comes in to help out the state of Florida in this investigation.
Yeah, and the state of Florida is another part that I want to get into, because the states have different laws and regulations. Florida is very strong on their maybe castle doctrine and other things like that. How can that play a role in terms of gun ownership, in terms of having your home and being inside your home versus another state or different states?
Yes, Florida has the strong stand your ground laws, and your home is your castle, meaning that if you're inside your house, you have a right to protect yourself from any intruders or anybody who's coming into your house that you don't know. In this situation, the U.S. Airman might not have known that this person was law enforcement, might not even heard the announcement of law enforcement if the law enforcement agent did say, I am law enforcement. So all that will come into play here, but being inside your house will be a big issue. Him being inside the apartment complex, being shot inside of the apartment complex, it will become a big issue in the criminal investigation. Right now, this officer will be criminally investigated to see whether or not charges will be brought against him as far as manslaughter or murder case in the future, whether or not this officer will have to face trial.
Yeah, and potentially what charges, if they do file, what kind of charges are this officer, could they be looking at?
I mean, there's a plethora of charges. Assault, first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter. All types of murder charges could be faced against this officer, because anytime you kill a person, even if it's by an accident or a negligent homicide to be a case, that means you negligently shot your weapon and killed somebody. So all of those are on the board and the table for the prosecutor prosecuting this officer in the future if they find out they want to move forward with this case.
Yeah, and the Okaloosa.
I mean, basically, the police officer was out here cowboy style, basically.
You can't make this shit up.
I mean, that's what happened. The young man opened the door. Of course, he had his firearm. He was inside his home. He was inside his own home. He had his firearm in his hand. It was pointed down. Clearly, it was not pointed at anything except for the floor. And instead of the officer maybe drawing his weapon to, point at a person, because listen, look, when you get a weapon pointed at you, the person that's getting the weapon pointed at, of course, they freeze to a degree. Now, in this particular situation, the officer just upped it and immediately started opening. So yeah, he didn't take the time to up it and be like, listen, look, I'm, this and that. I'm sheriff, this and that. Put down your weapon. He didn't give the opportunity for the young man to put down the weapon. That's the factor of the damn case. He didn't give the young man the opportunity. He didn't give the young man the opportunity to put the weapon down first. He didn't ask this young man to put the weapon down. He had already drawn the weapon very quickly as the officer. He didn't ask the young man to put the weapon down. He drew the weapon and immediately started firing while the young man had his weapon still pointed to the floor. I mean, it just is what it is. So this is a complicated situation here. Like I keep saying, I still want the young lady that's supposed to be the complex overseer and things like that to come forth, actually give a description of what noises that she heard, proclaiming to hear female, things like that. If he was on the phone with his girlfriend and things like that, it's no way that you could hear a young lady or anybody on the phone through an apartment building complex, like, through doors and all that type of shit. It's just no way you can hear all that shit. I don't, even if the young man was on the phone arguing with his girlfriend, it's no way that you could hear anybody's voice over a phone through all those doors, plaster, cement, all that in an apartment building. Like, what is the deal here? This is the question. This is the fucking question. What's the deal here? And it's sad, but it's true. It's a lot of questions that need to be answered in this particular situation. It's a lot of things that need to come to light. And yeah, it definitely needs to. We need the young lady that's the actual apartment manager, things like that, to bring her ass to the table, give an exact story of what she heard from this specific apartment, because that's what she pointed the officer to and things like that. And we need answers. We need real answers. They do not need to disregard that young lady, because she's the one that started this shit. She's the one that called the police to the damn scene. And we need to also figure out why this officer showed up fucking solo out here when we know that police travel in goddamn packs. When we know that police travel in packs. But it is what it is, though, man. Hey, shout out to all my subscribers. You know what I'm saying? If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure that you ring that bell, that you'll be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line. Mad love to all my subscribers. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Please comment. My link to my X, TikTok, and my email are down below. And I always show the bottom line news some love. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.
Who responsible for all these holes in the street? You?
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
We'll talk about that some other time.
No, I want to talk about it now. See,
Fred,
another reason
Fred, I said we'll talk about that some other time.
You don't tell me what I can talk about. You don't tell me what I can talk about in my own house.
Don't you point your finger at my nose, Fred Sanford.
I'll point my finger at your nose, and I'll point my foot somewhere else.